In a world that constantly emphasizes surfaces, illusions, and the weight of external validation, there is a deep truth that often goes unnoticed. Presence carries far greater power than appearance. To be present is to anchor yourself in the now, to allow your energy, awareness, and authenticity to shine through without the need for external decoration. Appearance can dazzle for a moment, but presence penetrates deeply. Presence cannot be faked, it cannot be purchased, and it cannot be borrowed from another. It is the direct reflection of one's inner stillness, self, knowledge, and conscious state of being. Appearance is fragile, always shifting with trends, circumstances, or the eyes of others. What is considered attractive or desirable today may no longer hold meaning tomorrow. Entire industries thrive on this cycle of constant change, encouraging people to polish their surfaces endlessly, leaving them exhausted in the pursuit of being noticed. Yet presence is timeless. It does not ask for approval, nor does it depend on shifting tastes. Presence arises when the mind ceases its constant chatter, when one's being aligns with clarity and simplicity. In the silence of presence, people are drawn naturally, not because of how one looks, but because of the unseen quality that radiates from within. To understand presence, one must first confront distraction. Most people lie scattered between past regrets and future anxieties. Their energy is stretched thin, leaving them hollow in the current moment. No matter how beautiful their appearance may be, if their mind is elsewhere, others sense the absence. The body may be standing there, but the soul is wandering. On the other hand, when someone enters a space fully rooted in the present moment, without their attention fractured, the entire atmosphere shifts. People notice not the clothes, not the posture, not even the face at first, but the gravity of presence that draws attention effortlessly. Presence is not about being louder or more dominant. It is about being fully alive in each breath. Appearance competes, presence invites. Appearance fades with time, presence grows stronger with maturity. When one cultivates presence, they no longer feel the need to prove themselves through external symbols. Their presence itself speaks louder than any decoration, louder than any reputation. In the quiet power of presence, there is no desperation to impress. There is only an undeniable authenticity that settles into the room and cannot be ignored. Cultivating presence requires discipline because it demands that one steps out of illusion. Illusion tells you that if you look a certain way, if you wear the right things, if you achieve a certain status, you will finally feel whole. Presence reveals that wholeness is not achieved through external additions, but through inner subtraction, removing noise, unnecessary desires, and attachments that blur awareness. By letting go of the obsession with appearance, presence naturally rises. It is like clouds moving aside to reveal the sun. The light was always there, it only needed space to shine. In the practice of presence, silence becomes a teacher. Silence is not emptiness, it is fullness without distraction. When the mind is quiet, awareness sharpens, and people around you can feel it. They sense the calm in your breathing, the clarity in your gaze, the steadiness in your movements. You are no longer hurried by the world, and that very calmness becomes magnetic. The presence born from silence outshines any surface appearance. It brings with it a depth that no cosmetic, no garment, no polished facade could ever match. Appearance is a performance, presence is truth. Appearances can crumble under pressure, but presence becomes even stronger in adversity. When challenges come, appearances seek to hide, but presence meets them openly without resistance. Presence gives courage because it arises from alignment with reality, not illusion. And this courage is what draws others in, not because they see perfection, but because they feel authenticity. Presence does not hide behind masks, it reveals itself fully, and in doing so, it inspires others to do the same. Presence is not about doing more, but about being more. The ego thrives on appearance. It wants recognition, praise, and validation. But presence has no such hunger. It does not seek to be admired because it does not operate on comparison. It exists beyond better or worse, beyond more or less. It simply is. And that simple existence, lived fully and without resistance, has more influence than any carefully crafted image. The power of presence lies in its naturalness, its refusal to pretend. When one embodies presence, even the smallest action carries weight. A single word spoken from presence carries more depth than an entire speech given from distraction. A moment of eye contact from presence can leave a lasting impression far deeper than any grand display of appearance. Presence cannot be reduced to surface. because it communicates on a level beyond appearances, on a level where energy, sincerity, and truth become palpable. The mistake many make is believing that appearance can create presence. They decorate themselves externally in hopes of masking the absence within. But absence cannot be hidden. People sense it. Presence, however, requires no decoration. It illuminates itself naturally. When one enters the present moment completely, the need for appearances falls away. This is not to say appearance has no value, but it should not be mistaken as the foundation of one's identity. Without presence, appearance is empty. With presence, even simplicity shines brighter than luxury. To live with presence is to recognize that your true power does not lie in how the world sees you, but in how fully you inhabit this moment. When awareness gathers fully into the now, the mind is no longer fragmented and the self no longer scattered. This gathering of energy is what makes presence so compelling. It is the opposite of seeking, it is the act of being. And in that being, there is a force greater than any appearance, a light that cannot be dimmed by time, fashion, or judgment. Confidence is often misunderstood. Many assume it is about being the loudest voice in the room, wearing the brightest clothes, or constantly proving oneself in front of others. But true confidence does not seek validation from the outside world. It does not arise from exaggeration or from the endless performance of trying to appear greater than one is. Instead, genuine confidence lives in simplicity. It is quiet, steady, and deeply rooted. It does not need to shout because it already knows. It does not need to display because it already is. Simplicity is not the absence of richness. It is the presence of clarity. It means that a person has removed the unnecessary layers that cloud the essence of who they are. When the distractions are gone, what remains is authentic. And authenticity is what gives birth to confidence. Consider the natural world. A mountain does not need to announce its presence, yet it stands unshaken. The sun does not need to prove its worth, yet it shines without interruption. A tree does not need to compare itself with another tree, yet it grows according to its nature. Their strength comes from simply being what they are, without pretension. Human beings, however, complicate their existence. We measure ourselves against others, believing confidence comes from superiority. We clutter our lives with possessions, achievements, and constant comparisons, thinking that confidence arises from accumulation. But this path creates insecurity, because no matter how much one gathers, there is always someone with more. Simplicity removes this endless chase. Simplicity means realizing that confidence is not dependent on comparison. It is born when we align with our own essence and live according to it. To embody simplicity requires courage. The world encourages complexity because complexity sells. It creates demand for more products, more information, more distractions. But a simple life is not about deprivation. It is about discernment. It is about recognizing what truly matters and discarding the rest. This is why those who live simply often appear radiant. Their minds are less burdened, their actions more intentional, and their presence more calm. Such people are not in constant conflict with themselves. They are at ease, and that ease is where confidence arises. Imagine walking into a room filled with people. Some speak loudly, some try to dominate, some attempt to impress with stories and gestures. Yet there is one person who speaks little, whose movements are unhurried, whose energy is composed. Strangely, this person draws more attention without effort. Why? Because confidence in simplicity speaks louder than noise. It is not the performance that commands respect, but the authenticity. When a person does not need to convince others of their worth, their presence becomes magnetic. Simplicity in thought is also essential. The mind is easily cluttered with doubts, fears, and imagined scenarios. We create layers of complexity by overthinking, by predicting outcomes, by worrying about opinions. Confidence fades when the mind is crowded. Simplicity clears the space. It means focusing only on what is in front of us, only on what is necessary, only on what is real. A clear mind does not stumble on its own projections. It walks forward directly, without hesitation. That clarity creates confidence because action becomes natural. In practice, confidence in simplicity can be cultivated by observing daily habits. Consider speech. A person who speaks simply, without unnecessary exaggeration, often communicates more powerfully than one who adds too many words. Simplicity in speech shows trust in the message, while complicated speech reveals uncertainty. Consider posture. Standing straight, breathing calmly, and moving with intention reflects more confidence than grand gestures or forced displays. Simplicity in posture shows balance. Even in clothing or appearance, simplicity carries a unique strength. It does not demand attention, yet it receives it naturally. But simplicity is not only external. At its deepest level, it is an inner alignment. When actions, words, and thoughts are consistent, a person feels no need to hide. They live transparently without masks. And when there is nothing to hide, there is nothing to fear. Fear is the enemy of confidence, and simplicity removes fear by removing contradiction. One no longer needs to maintain a false image. One simply lives as they are, and in this living, confidence emerges. There is also wisdom in simplicity. Complex solutions often lead to more problems. Simple solutions endure because they go to the root. A wise teacher once said, "Complexity is a sign of confusion. Simplicity is a sign of clarity." To live simply is to cut away what is not essential and to focus on what nourishes the spirit. Such wisdom radiates through action. And when wisdom is expressed, confidence follows because there is no doubt in the direction being taken. In relationships, too, simplicity is the foundation of trust. When one is not pretending, not performing, not overcomplicating interactions, others feel safe. They sense honesty. And honesty builds trust. A confident person does not manipulate to gain approval. They allow their presence to speak. This kind of simplicity makes relationships stronger because they are built on truth rather than appearances. Confidence in simplicity is not about having less, it is about needing less. When you need less, you are free. And when you are free, you are confident. This confidence is not temporary because it does not depend on circumstances. It cannot be taken away by loss, nor inflated by gain. It is steady because it comes from within. It is the confidence of someone who has found themselves not through external measures, but through the art of simplicity. Aging is often seen as a process of decline, a slow fading away from the vitality and energy of youth. Yet when one looks deeper, beyond the physical signs and the passing of years, there is another dimension to aging that reveals itself, one of grace, depth, and inner refinement. To age with grace is not simply to accept the inevitable changes of the body, but to allow those changes to teach, to shape, and to cultivate a different kind of strength that is no longer measured in speed or outward achievement, but in the clarity of mind and the softness of spirit. Grace in aging arises when we no longer cling to the image of who we once were, and instead open ourselves to the wisdom that only time can give. There is a beauty in lines upon the face, in the slower pace of movement, in the gentle awareness that life is finite. Where youth often rushes, age pauses. Where youth seeks endlessly to gain, age begins to understand the richness of letting go. This is not weakness, but a strength of another kind. A strength in allowing life to unfold without resistance, a strength in releasing the unnecessary battles and conserving energy for what truly matters. Grace is not found in fighting the years, but in walking alongside them with acceptance. The body changes, yes, but with those changes come lessons. A back that no longer carries as much weight reminds us that burdens need not always be held. A step that is slower encourages us to notice what was once overlooked. Even the fatigue that comes more easily becomes a teacher, showing us that rest and stillness are not signs of laziness, but acts of balance. To see these changes as reminders rather than losses is to age with grace, because they direct attention away from mere survival and toward presence, awareness, and reflection. The world often glorifies youth, equating vitality with worth and speed with value. Yet what is overlooked is the richness of perspective that only time can provide. A younger person may see a storm and only feel fear, but one who has lived through many seasons knows that storms pass, that clouds break, that hardship carries its own hidden lessons. Aging grants perspective, and perspective grants peace. To walk through years is to gather an understanding that cannot be found in books or borrowed from others. It is lived wisdom, and this wisdom carries a weight that does not oppress but steadies. Grace in aging is also about releasing the illusions that once drove us. The need to prove, the desire to compare, the endless pursuit of recognition. All of these burn brightly in youth but often dim with time. As they fade, a lighter energy appears, one that does not push outward but glows inward. The heart no longer seeks validation from the crowd, but rests in its own knowing. This is not resignation but freedom. The freedom to live without constant striving. The freedom to appreciate the simple rhythms of existence without measuring them against the achievements of others. There is also a sacred humility that comes with aging gracefully. Life reveals its impermanence more clearly, and with that realization, pride softens. The ego, which once shouted so loudly, begins to lose its grip. In its place arises compassion, patience, and an ability to see beyond the self. To know that one's time is limited makes each interaction more precious, each word more meaningful, each moment more alive. Grace lies in this recognition, in treating the ordinary as extraordinary, because the fleeting nature of life makes it so. In many traditions, aging is seen as a return, a circling back to simplicity. Just as a child lives freely without heavy concerns, the elder who ages with grace finds joy in small things, again the warmth of sunlight, the sound of laughter, the quiet presence of loved ones. The cycle is not regression but evolution, moving from innocence to experience and back to a deeper form of innocence, one that holds both wisdom and wonder. Grace is in allowing this cycle to flow, not resisting the return, but embracing it as a natural rhythm of existence. Aging gracefully does not mean denying pain or pretending that challenges disappear. Bodies ache, losses accumulate, and memories fade. But within these struggles lies another kind of grace, the grace of resilience. To endure with dignity, to accept with humility, to adapt with courage. These are the qualities that shine when outer strength diminishes. The light that comes from within does not flicker with age. It often grows brighter precisely because it no longer competes with the distractions of external striving. When one learns to age with grace, time itself becomes a companion rather than an enemy. The passing years are not feared but welcomed, for each brings another opportunity to deepen understanding. The fear of endings is replaced by an appreciation of the present, and the desire for endless youth is replaced by gratitude for the journey that has been traveled. Grace is found in honoring the past without being bound by it, in embracing the present without clinging, and in facing the future without fear. Aging is not the loss of beauty, but the transformation of beauty. It shifts from the surface to the depths, from appearance to essence. It is no longer in how fast one runs, but in how still one can sit, no longer in how loudly one speaks, but in how deeply one listens. This kind of beauty does not fade with years, it grows, it matures, it softens, and it strengthens. It is the beauty of grace, the beauty of becoming fully human, the beauty of allowing life to carve its wisdom into the soul. Expression is more than words. It is not limited to what is spoken or written, but it radiates through every gesture, every silence, every gaze, and every pause between the beats of breath. Depth of expression arises when a human being no longer performs communication only for the surface, but when each action becomes rooted in awareness, presence, and authenticity. Many people speak endlessly, but their words are hollow, floating without substance. Others may remain silent, yet their presence alone communicates volumes, transmitting a vibration that speaks deeper than any spoken sound. Expression, in its truest form, is not a technique but an embodiment of inner alignment. When the mind is restless, expression becomes scattered. It shows up in the nervousness of speech, the overuse of gestures, or the attempt to impress others with vocabulary or emotion. But when the mind is still, expression carries a weight that cannot be ignored. Even a single word uttered from this stillness becomes impactful. The depth of expression is measured not by length or loudness, but by resonance. Resonance means that what is shared penetrates beyond the surface ear and reaches into the heart of another being. Such communication does not vanish once spoken, it lingers, echoing within the listener long after the moment has passed. To cultivate this kind of depth, one must begin with the discipline of listening. Listening, in its true sense, is not waiting for your turn to respond. It is not calculating your reply or defending your viewpoint. It is surrendering completely to what is being expressed before you. Listening creates spaciousness, and in that space clarity arises. When clarity is present, expression becomes natural, unforced, and genuine. Depth of expression emerges not from pushing to be understood, but from being deeply connected to what is true in the present moment. Expression also extends far beyond the arena of speech. The body itself is constantly expressing. Posture, movement, and even the rhythm of breath tell a story. If the body is tense, constricted, or misaligned, its expression communicates struggle or resistance, even if the words are positive. When the body is relaxed, grounded, and open, its expression communicates authenticity, strength, and peace. This is why practices such as meditation, martial arts, or mindful movement are not simply exercises for the body, but also gateways to refining expression. The inner state shapes the outer form, and the outer form mirrors the inner state. The depth of expression also reveals itself in creativity. A painting, a piece of music, or a poem may not have many words or notes, but the sincerity behind its creation allows it to touch people across cultures and times. The depth does not come from complexity, but from purity. When an artist creates with no agenda other than to reveal what is true in their heart, the work itself becomes timeless. Similarly, when an individual communicates without agenda, without the need to manipulate or convince, their words hold weight. They become expressions that arise from alignment rather than from ego. There is also an unseen dimension to expression, one that cannot be captured in language. Energy itself expresses. The energy of a person enters a space before their words do. It is felt by others in the subtleties of atmosphere, in the calmness or turbulence they carry. Someone may walk into a room silently, yet shift the entire mood simply through their presence. This is why depth of expression is not something that can be practiced outwardly alone. It requires inner cultivation. The depth is built through silence, through stillness, through the inner work of cleansing thoughts, refining emotions, and anchoring the spirit in clarity. Depth of expression often requires restraint. In a world filled with noise, restraint becomes powerful. Speaking only when necessary and with words that carry truth makes expression impactful. Silence itself becomes an expression, not of emptiness but of fullness, because in silence one can feel the layers beyond language. To express deeply does not mean to always say more. Sometimes it means saying less but saying it with such presence that the few words carry more weight than 1,000 ungrounded sentences. The challenge for many is that they are constantly pulled outward, seeking approval, seeking recognition, seeking to be heard. In this state, expression becomes shallow because it is dependent on external validation. Depth of expression, however, arises when there is no dependence on reaction. When expression flows naturally from being, it no longer seeks applause or agreement. It simply is. Like a river that flows from its source, expression of depth nourishes whatever it touches without expectation of return. To move toward such depth, one must continually return to the self. Observation of one's own mind, discipline of one's emotions, and grounding in one's breath are the starting points. When a person learns to observe their own patterns without judgment, their expression becomes purified. They no longer speak from reactivity, but from understanding. They no longer express from fear, but from clarity. This shift transforms communication from being a transaction of words into being a transmission of essence. Depth of expression is not something to be performed, but something to be lived. It is cultivated in the way one wakes in the morning, in the way one listens to others, in the way one responds to conflict, and in the way one carries silence within a noisy world. The more one aligns inner truth with outer action, the deeper the expression becomes. It is not about crafting the perfect sentence, but about embodying the clarity that allows even imperfect words to resonate with power. It is in this way that expression transforms from being superficial to being profound. It becomes a mirror reflecting the inner state of being. It becomes a bridge, connecting hearts and minds beyond language. It becomes a force not because it is loud or persuasive, but because it is real. And reality, when expressed with purity, has a power that cannot be denied. Energy is the invisible current that animates life. It cannot be seen, yet it can be felt in every breath, in every heartbeat, and in every step. Vitality is the manifestation of this energy in physical, mental, and spiritual expression. Together, they determine the quality of our existence. When energy is abundant, life feels expansive and full of possibility. When vitality flows freely, we move with clarity, strength, and purpose. But when energy becomes stagnant, when vitality is drained, everything feels heavy, slow, and difficult. To understand energy and vitality is to understand the essence of life itself. The body is not just flesh and bones, it is a field of energy. Every thought creates a subtle vibration, every emotion generates movement, and every action leaves a trace. When we wake up exhausted, it is not always because of lack of sleep, but often because the mind has been restless, consuming energy without direction. When we feel heavy or uninspired, it is not always the body that is weak, but the spirit that is disconnected from its natural flow. Energy, when blocked by fear, doubt, or overthinking, cannot nourish vitality. It is like a river obstructed by stones. The current slows down, and what was once flowing becomes stagnant. Vitality cannot be forced, but it can be cultivated. It is not a matter of adding more, but of removing the unnecessary. The body knows how to regenerate, the mind knows how to rest, and the spirit knows how to align, if we allow it. Many people spend their days in constant pursuit of stimulation, thinking that vitality comes from consuming more and more food, more information, more noise. But true vitality emerges from simplicity, from balance, from harmony. When breath is deep, when posture is open, when the mind is still, energy begins to restore itself naturally. The quality of breath reflects the quality of energy. A shallow breath indicates a shallow state of being, while a deep breath awakens presence. Breath connects the inner world with the outer world. Every inhale draws in new energy. Every exhale releases what no longer serves. By observing the breath, we learn that vitality is not about holding on, but about allowing exchange. To breathe fully is to live fully, and to live fully is to honor the rhythm of giving and receiving. Energy is also shaped by attention. Where attention goes, energy flows. If attention is scattered, energy is wasted. If attention is consumed by worry, doubt, or anger, vitality is drained. But when attention is steady, focused, and clear, energy condenses and vitality strengthens. This is why practices of stillness, meditation, or mindful movement awaken vitality. They are not about creating energy from nothing, but about gathering what was dispersed, about bringing back what was lost through distraction. The body, too, is a vessel of vitality. Movement that is conscious, walking with awareness, stretching with intention, flowing with rhythm, restores energy. Movement that is unconscious, rushed, tense, aggressive, dissipates energy. In the stillness of sitting or in the flow of movement, the question is the same: is the energy being scattered or is it being refined? When refined, vitality grows lighter, brighter, and more resilient. It is not only about strength or stamina, but about the radiance that comes when energy is aligned. Vitality does not belong to the young alone. Age does not define energy, alignment does. There are those who are old in years but alive in spirit, radiating vitality that inspires everyone they meet. And there are those who are young in years but burdened, tired, and drained. The difference is not time but energy. To cultivate vitality is to understand the rhythm of renewal, the importance of rest, the wisdom of balance. A life of constant striving exhausts energy, while a life of alignment restores it. The mind often believes that vitality is achieved by doing more, but often it is achieved by doing less. Letting go of the thoughts that consume energy unnecessarily, releasing the emotions that weigh down the spirit, and allowing silence to renew the inner space all create vitality. Energy is not a resource to be hoarded, but a current to be harmonized. When it is balanced, life feels lighter, clearer, and more awake. Energy is influenced by environment. A chaotic space drains vitality, while a harmonious space nourishes it. The people we surround ourselves with also shape our energy. To spend time with those who uplift and inspire is to feel vitality expand, while to remain in circles of negativity is to feel energy leak away. Awareness of environment is awareness of how vitality is either supported or diminished. Vitality is also connected to purpose. When actions are aligned with meaning, energy flows effortlessly. When actions are disconnected from purpose, energy is quickly depleted. A task done with resentment drains energy, while the same task done with presence and clarity renews it. Purpose gives direction to energy, and direction gives strength to vitality. Without purpose, energy disperses into countless fragments, leaving the spirit fatigued. With purpose, energy condenses into focus, creating resilience. The relationship between energy and vitality is not mechanical but organic. It cannot be reduced to formulas or calculations. It must be felt. It must be experienced in the stillness of the breath, in the flow of movement, in the alignment of intention. To live with energy and vitality is not only to survive but to thrive, to move not from exhaustion but from renewal, to act not from depletion but from abundance. It is the art of maintaining balance between activity and rest, between giving and receiving, between effort and surrender. There is a kind of force that does not shout, does not push, does not demand. It does not rely on muscle or on the volume of a voice. It does not intimidate, nor does it impose. This force is subtle, invisible, yet deeply felt. It is wisdom. And when wisdom becomes embodied, it becomes magnetic. It pulls rather than pushes, attracts rather than chases, and illuminates without needing to explain itself. Wisdom as magnetism is not about knowing everything, but about embodying what has been deeply understood. Magnetism is not created through noise, but through resonance. When one resonates with truth, there is no need to prove it. Others sense it, like iron filings drawn toward a magnetic field. Wisdom, when lived, creates this field. It does not demand followers, yet people follow. It does not try to convince, yet people believe. This is the quiet power of wisdom, and it is rooted in a life of inner clarity, patience, and experience that has been absorbed, not just observed. The mind without wisdom is restless, always searching for approval, always trying to justify its existence. It seeks recognition and wants to be seen. But a wise mind does not seek to be acknowledged. Its silence is more powerful than words spoken from ignorance. Its presence carries more weight than the actions of one who has not yet seen beyond surface appearances. This is because wisdom carries an energy of certainty, and certainty creates gravity. Just as the earth holds all things toward its center, wisdom holds attention, respect, and trust toward its essence. Wisdom does not need to advertise itself. When the fruit ripens, it does not need to call the birds. The fragrance travels through the air, and the birds arrive. In the same way, wisdom sends out signals that cannot be measured in ordinary terms. It radiates calmness when others are lost in confusion. It provides direction without forcing anyone to follow. It remains steady when everything else trembles. In this steadiness lies the magnetism that others are naturally drawn to. But what is the essence of this magnetism? It is not cleverness. Cleverness can impress, but it does not last. Cleverness can make people listen, but it does not make them stay. Wisdom is different because it is not designed to shine outwardly, it glows inwardly, and the glow cannot be hidden. Wisdom comes from lived truth, from falling and rising, from observing and reflecting, from silence and patience. The magnetism of wisdom lies in its authenticity. It is not borrowed knowledge, not repeated words, but the essence of direct understanding. When someone possesses wisdom, their speech is not heavy with complexity. The words are simple, yet they cut deep. The simplicity is the power, because wisdom is not about displaying knowledge. It is about expressing clarity. And clarity is magnetic because in a world full of noise and confusion, clarity becomes a rare treasure. People move toward it, not even always knowing why, only sensing that something is present that feels real. Wisdom as magnetism also operates beyond speech. The gestures, the stillness, the way of being, all become part of the field. When someone wise enters a room, they do not need to announce themselves. The space shifts. The atmosphere becomes calm, more focused. Others notice that their own mind feels quieter, their own emotions less turbulent. This is the subtle magnetism of wisdom, and it cannot be manufactured. It is the result of deep alignment between thought, word, and action. Wisdom does not create dependency. It is not the magnetism of control or manipulation. Rather, it encourages independence. Its magnetism inspires others not to lean forever, but to grow their own strength, to discover their own light. Just as the sun pulls all life into motion, yet does not claim ownership over the planets, wisdom influences without grasping. It shines, it warms, it nourishes, and then it lets each being move in its own path. There is also a paradox in wisdom as magnetism. The less one tries to attract, the more attractive one becomes. The less one seeks to be followed, the more others want to walk alongside. The less one needs to be recognized, the more recognition flows naturally. This is because wisdom operates through alignment, not effort. When there is alignment with truth, the magnetism cannot be resisted, just as one cannot resist the pull of gravity. To cultivate wisdom is therefore not to cultivate attention, reputation, or appearance. It is to cultivate depth of understanding, patience of heart, and clarity of mind. It is to see beyond illusions, to recognize the impermanence of things, to act with compassion rather than ego. When this cultivation becomes the ground of one's being, then magnetism is not something added, it is something natural. Just as the flower does not try to be fragrant, yet the fragrance comes, wisdom does not try to be magnetic, yet the magnetism radiates. And so wisdom draws what is needed, repels what is false, attracts what is genuine, and guides without forcing. It is not an energy of demand but of alignment. It does not shout yet is heard, it does not pursue yet is found, it does not try yet it happens. In this way wisdom becomes magnetism, and magnetism becomes the silent proof of wisdom.